This is a demo of storage management on Microsoft Windows platform. For this demo, I'm going to show you how to create basic partition and dynamic disk volume. I'm going to use Windows Server 2008 instead of Windows 7 to be able to show you the different types of disks that are available and can be configured using Microsoft Windows. I'll start off with loading the disk management MMC, and to do that I'm going to type disk mgmt.msc, which is the shortcut to load the disk management. I'm going to maximize this dialog window, and as you can see, currently my virtual machine only has one local virtual disk, and that's disk 0, which is drive C. For this demo, I need to add 3 more virtual disks to show you the different types of basic and dynamic volumes that are possible with the Microsoft Windows platform. And for me to do that, I'm going to add 3 virtual disks using VMware Player. I'm going to go to Player, Manage Virtual Machine Settings, and I'm going to hit on the command button Add, making sure that I'm pointing to hard disk, and I'm going to click Next. I'm going to choose create a new virtual disk, click next, and making sure that the disk type is CASI instead of IDE. Click next. For this demo, I'm just going to use 1 GB so that when we format the partitions and the volume, it's going to be faster. And I'm going to make sure that the setting is set to split virtual disk into multiple files. I'm going to click next. I'm going to accept the default directory and hit finish. So as you can see, now I have 2 virtual disks. One is disk 0 and this one is disk 1, which is 1 gig. I'm going to do the same routine that I did a while ago by clicking add and then next. Create new virtual disk, SCSI type, 1 GB, multiple files. Click next and finish. I'll do that one more time. Right now, as you can see, I have 4 virtual disks that has been set up under the virtual machine settings of VMware. I'm going to click OK. And right off the bat, you would see that under the disk management MMC, it has identified 3 new virtual disks. The initial setting of these disks are basically unknown simply because they have not been made online and they have not been initialized. So in order for us to make online and initialize it eventually, we're going to hover our mouse right here on disk 1, and I'm going to right click, and I'm going to select initialize disk. The dialog window that's going to pop up has automatically identified that there are 3 disks, so it's just asking us whether we want to initialize all 3 disks that has been detected. I'm going to select MBR. As you know by now, MBR is typically used for disks that are less than 2 terabytes. I'm going to click OK, and as you can see down here the left hand side, they've been changed to basic disk and all of them are now online. So if you identify the first disk as disk 0, subsequent disks will have disk 1, 2, 3 because the ordinal numbering system is currently being used. So by default, the first disk that we've just created is just to reiterate, by default the new disks that we've just created are all basic unless we actually convert them to dynamic. So let me show you how to create partition of a basic disk. From your readings, you've identified that you can only have 4 primary partition per given Windows system. And I'm going to show you what happens when you go beyond that 4 basic primary partition. So by default, you know that in disk 0 we have drive C already, and that is a primary partition as identified by this blue colored shade. You can see the label down here says primary partition. I'm going to create our second primary partition of disk 1, and to do this I'm going to right click on this area right here and click simple volume. I'm going to click next, and I'm going to assign 100 megabytes out of the 1 gig that we have for disk 1, and I'm going to click next. I'm going to accept the default drive letter, which is drive E. You can select any drive that you that you feel like using in terms of the letter. I'm going to just select drive E as a default for now. Click next. For this purpose, I'm going to put a volume label saying basic 2, identifying that this is the second primary basic partition. I'm going to leave this perform a quick format checkbox checked so that it's fast when we start formatting this, so we don't have to wait for demo purposes. I'm going to click finish right here, and as you can see, the 1 gigabyte has been deducted about 100 megabyte because it has been allotted to drive E. As you can see right now, you now have drive E. If you go to Windows Explorer and expand on my computer, you could see that you now have drive C and drive E as well. I'm going to create the third primary partition by right clicking on the unallocated space of disk 1 and click simple volume. Click next. I'm going to also assign 100 megabytes for this purpose. I'm going to also select whatever is the default drive letter, and this time I'm going to put a volume label called basic 3. I think it's basic 3, right? Yeah, basic 3. Click next, finish. So currently we have 1, 2, 3 primary partitions, and just a reminder, primary partitions are areas in the disk system wherein you can load a particular operating system for the system to boot from. So you can load Windows 7 on drive C, you can load Fedora, for instance, on drive E, and you can load Ubuntu on drive F. And primary partitions enable a particular computer system to run multiple operating systems. Let us select a fourth primary partition out of the remaining unallocated space. I'm going to right click on the unallocated and click next. The usual, I'm going to assign 100 megabytes. Accept the default drive letter. Click next, and I'm going to select basic 4 right here. Click next and finish. So I think we've reached the maximum number of primary partitions we can have for a Windows system. Now let's see what happens when we try to infuse a fifth primary partition out of the unallocated space. I'm going to right click, use simple volume, click next, 100 megabytes, click next, next, and I'm going to say basic 5. Click next and finish. If you notice, this area here that we have tried to convert to a simple primary partition was not actually converted to primary partition. As you can see here, there's a green border line, and if you look at the label down here, it says it's an extended partition. And what an extended partition is that it is a drive that you can put data files. You cannot load any operating system, nor can you make this drive an active partition for the computer system to boot from. And this clearly manifests that rule that you can only have maximum of 4 basic primary partition in a given Windows system. The one cool thing about the basic disk in Windows is its ability to mount to an empty NTFS folder. And instead of me explaining to you what it is, let me just proceed directly with the demo so that it'll be more visible. So for instance, in this case, we've got drive C right here, and it's, as you can see, it is allocated 40 gigabytes of disk 0 space. Let us assume that it came to a point wherein you're the administrator of this drive, and there's no more free space on the current disk 0 for you to extend drive C, and you need to extend it further and to have more space. Now you can actually extend drive C to a different disk by mounting it to an empty NTFS folder, and you can place the NTFS folder in any of the disks that are mounted on the system and that are free or unallocated. So in this case, let's have the free space in disk 1 of about 250 MB. Let's extend drive C to the free space in disk 1 by allocating 250 megabytes of the existing 622 megabytes free space. So how do we do this? We right click inside this free space right here and click simple volume. I am going to click next and allocate 250 MB like so. Click next. And instead of accepting the default drive letter drive I, which if I do is just going to create another extended partition, I'm going to select the second radio button option here that says mount to empty NTFS folder. What I'm going to do is I'm going to click here and expand on drive C, and under drive C I'm going to create a folder. I'm going to create a folder called extension, and I'm going to click next. I'm gonna assign a file called the volume label called extension and click next and finish. Now watch carefully what happens to this 250 MB. Right off the bat you would see that there was no drive letter that was assigned because this is simply an extension of drive C. To validate this, we can go to Windows Explorer and expand on drive C. And in drive C you could see the named extension, and if we open this you would see that it's a free space. To validate that this extension is really the extension that we've just created, you can right click on its properties by doing like so and click properties command button. As you can see there, this is exactly what we've just created of this drive C. So it's a cool feature wherein you fail to plan for the correct allocation of a particular drive, and instead of reformatting everything starting from scratch, you can just make the overflow go to the other disk by using an empty NTFS folder. Okay, so let me show you now how simple it is to delete partitions in a basic disk partition of Disk Management Console. Right here, if I want to delete basic 4, I'm just going to right click and delete the volume like so. Alright, and drive G is already gone. I can also delete F if you want, and drive F is gone. So I hope this has been informative for you, and I would like to see you in the next video wherein we're going to discuss the next type of disk, which is dynamic volume. So I'd like to thank you for viewing, and hope to see you in the next video.